More Champions League action. First leg of the quarterfinal between AC Milan and Napoli. This one finished 1-0 at the San Siro. Benacer a goal in the 40th minute. That's your game winner. Napoli finishing with 10 men. Awisa sent off about midway through the second half. For more on this, then, let's welcome into the show Stewart, Robson, and joining us live from Milan, Mark Ogden. Augie, we'll start with you then. What'd you think of this game? AC Milan getting the 1-0 win over Napoli.
Hi, Seb. Yeah, listen, I thought Napoli would win tonight. I thought Napoli had the advantage being, 22 points clear of Milan in Serie A, but they just didn't turn up tonight. I felt that, obviously, no Osimhen was a big blow, no Simeone either. And I think Napoli lacked a bit of a cutting edge. And, from that first minute when Kvaratskhelia missed that chance, that easy chance, it just felt like Napoli just didn't have the killer touch tonight. They created lots of chances. They created enough chances to win the game, but it just felt that, I don't know, it just felt like Milan, even though Milan had been out of the Champions League for quite a while, they just had this sense of, the history about the place. The San Siro was rocking tonight, that Milan just knew they were going to get a result. So it's very well poised for the second leg. Obviously, 1-0 going to Naples next week. You can't really call it, but Napoli need Osimhen back. They need Osimhen back to give them a cutting edge, to give them a presence, because they had no presence tonight.
Robbo, is it that simple? You think Osimhen would have made the difference in this game?
I think he would have done. I mean, they played Elmas up front, who's really a wide player or attacking midfield player. And they dominated the game in the early stages. Their midfield player, and Gisa and Lobotka, playing little 1-2s around Milan's midfield. They dominated the game. I wouldn't say they created out-and-out easy chances apart from that first minute. Zielinski had a couple of shots from distance. But if they had a centre-forward like Osimhen, they could have played balls down the side. He'd have been a physical threat when balls came in the box, because it was too easy for the two centre-halves for Milan. Kier and Tomori, they had it quite easy. And Kvaratskhelia down the left-hand side. Every time he got the ball, he looked threatening, but he didn't actually do too much with it, and they defended him pretty well. They showed him inside at times. The holding midfield player came across and defended him well enough when he came inside onto his right foot. Calabria did well down that right side when he went down the outside. So overall, Milan defended quite well, and there just wasn't a cutting edge about Napoli in the first half, and there wasn't a cutting edge in the second half, and particularly when they had the player sent off.
Your man got taken off.
Chucky Lozano, yeah, he started. We're excited about that. The Mexican international.
Taken off. He's got Osimhen's got I think it's an adductor injury, but whether he'll be back or not is a big question. There's no doubt Napoli were the more dangerous, as Robbo said, without really having that killer cutting edge in the final third, which I think they'll have in Naples. When you see them playing at home, and that home crowd, that great atmosphere behind them, the pace they play at, and particularly if they get Osimhen back, although, you would expect Milan to sit deep, which would deny a little bit of space for him to run in behind, which he likes to do, but then he's a threat from crosses into the box. So, whilst it's certainly not a great performance or a great result from a Napoli perspective, I'm still in the camp that back in Naples, at their stadium, with the crowd behind them, the way they've played this season, for the most part, that Napoli will go through.
One of the things that I thought was very clear to see in this matchup was how vulnerable at times Napoli looked to the Milan counter-attack, which didn't happen all that often because Napoli had most of the possession, had most of the control of the game. But when the game got emotional and Napoli were sort of chasing and there were opportunities for Milan to go on the counter, we saw a long run of Rafael Leao in the first half where he essentially ran by the midfield of Napoli like they weren't even there, ran by defenders on the left-hand side, misses the chance. The goal also comes from a counter-attack where Napoli are struggling to get numbers behind the ball or get organized behind the ball enough to, at the very least, limit the opportunities. I also have to say that while Benacer would suggest that it's a good strike on goal and Milan will take the goal, there he leaves a whole lot of space in that near post and goes with a kick save that doesn't quite work out. Milan will take it. Benacer will take it. It's a really good result for Milan, but I just don't know that it's enough. I agree with Craig and I agree with Stewie in that Napoli can be more explosive than what we saw today, but part of being more explosive is having Victor Osimhen available. And if he is available, this team changes, and the personality of the group in the second half also changes.
Did you get in the wrong flight or something?
Don't worry about Augie.
Is Ogden not supposed to be in Madrid? He ended up in Milan.
Let's lean on Robbo here. Robbo, I know you were trying to get a word in there.
Yeah, the other problem we didn't speak about there is Anguissa, who was excellent in midfield. He's going to be suspended. He didn't deserve to be sent off. I didn't think for the second challenge. He actually won the ball, and they're going to miss their best centre half, their quickest centre half in Kim. He's going to be suspended. He went for a header, and it looked like a fair challenge. He then argued with the referee, got a yellow card. He's missing the next game. So that's 2 key players out for Napoli. And Ali's absolutely right. There was only 3 times that Milan counter-attacked, and they counter-attacked at pace. One for the goal, the other one when Leao hits it just past the post, and there was one in the second half as well where they didn't make the most of the situation. And if you look back to the 4-0 where Milan beat Napoli only 10 days ago, most of the goals came from counter-attacks with Leao running with the ball, Salamakers when he came on, running with the ball. So I think it's going to be a very tight second leg, absolutely.
But Robbo, what do you think about that win from Milan? Do you not think that was more a little bit to do with the fact that Napoli are in second gear now in terms of the championship, where they're going to win the Scudetto, but now we have a proper game to play with everything to play for in the second leg. So we're going to see a different Napoli to the one that lost 4-0, are we not?
You hope so, but I just think in the last 2 or 3 games that Napoli haven't quite been the same side. You know, and because you only need 1 defeat, and I think that 4-0 defeat has just rocked them a little bit. They didn't play particularly well at the weekend when they got a 2-1 victory against the lowly side. They just didn't play particularly well, and they didn't play particularly well. And they looked as though in the second half they couldn't see where a goal was coming from, and that's a slight worry from them. They've just knocked their confidence slightly. I still think they're going to come through, but it's going to be much tighter than I thought when we went into these 2 games.
Augie, to Robbo's point, they don't seem like the same Napoli. You think they can recapture it for the second leg?
I think, you know, Spalletti said that he didn't want to risk him for this game and losing for 5, which you understand, but he really has to play next week. And he didn't travel to Milan, he didn't train the day before, so he's not played there since mid-March. So if, on that basis, he's got a groin strain, hasn't played for almost a month, I think it's a massive gamble, but he has to play, and without him, they're not the same team. But it's not the same team. He's got this great presence up front, he scores lots of goals, and when he's not playing, they're not as fearsome an opponent for teams to play. So I think that's where they've lost the edge, at the fact that he's not there. So I think Spalletti has to play next week because, look, the Serie A title's in the bag, the 16 points clear. So I think their season depends on next Tuesday. What happens in Naples is their season. So you have to play Osimhen. And if he gets injured and scores the winner next week, then we're in the semi-finals and he might miss it. But you have to play him. You have to, because they're not the same team without him.
Yeah, he starts. Well, look, even if he's 60 or 70%, it's not like they're in a title fight and it's close, as Mark said. So you play him. If he comes off after half an hour, he comes off after half an hour. It's the gamble that you have to take. I wonder if, and nobody expected this from Napoli really, to have such a huge lead in Serie A. But we've discussed in this show before, particularly with PSG in certain seasons where they've been so far ahead in the league, and how that was going to affect the remainder of the season for them. Were they going to down their tools a little bit? Were they going to just, tailor it back a little bit in terms of their performance? And I do wonder, as Robbo said, Napoli haven't been that sparkling side that we saw for 70% of this season, and I wonder if that's something to do with their league position.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.